Welcome to the Below the Line podcast. My name is David Duggan, and I'm one of the members of a team made up of experts from the worlds of business, elite sport, adventure, and health and well-being. We are coaches, mentors, and advisors to some of the world's biggest companies and organisations, as well as smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, and people looking to make their mark in the world. Whether it's leadership, business, coaching, health, or just life in general, we're really talking about performance, our ability to show up as brilliantly as possible into all of these situations for ourselves and those around us. Each week, I sit down with a member of our team to discuss a performance-related topic connected to their area of expertise. We keep it short and sweet so that you can extract all the good stuff and get on with the rest of your day, and hopefully put some of our knowledge, experience and expertise into play for yourself. This week, I am talking to my colleague Ian Kingston about the topic of re-emerging from the pandemic. For some of us, this is an exciting and welcome opportunity to reclaim parts of our lives and routines that we have sorely missed over the last 18 months, while for others, it poses a very different set of challenges and emotions. Ian tells me about what some of these key challenges facing the people, teams and businesses he is working with right now are, as well as the advice he is giving to his clients to manage both themselves and others through this period of transition. You can subscribe at www.belowtheline.ie, where you can stay up to date with our podcast, as well as exclusive online events and sessions. Thanks for listening, and see you next week. I wanted to talk to you about this because of the conversation I had with someone in another organisation where they were arranging a meeting with someone they hadn't seen for 18 months due to the pandemic, and this person's first thought was, God, what do I wear? Because I haven't been in the office in 18 months. And this was a precursor to a conversation about how do we get people back into the office, and just this theme of re-emerging. And I'm seeing it, with this particular example, but with your coach and kind of performance and consultant hat on, I'm sure you're seeing it in lots of the teams and the organizations you're working with. So I wanted to ask you, what do you see as being some of the key challenges facing lots of people, anyone, leaders, people in companies as they re-emerge and have to get back out into the world again?
Yeah, it's gas what came up, isn't it? The first thing I would say to anyone listening is, if you're going into the office, make sure you don't go in your pajamas, because that's the challenge. Is people are literally, they know what top to wear, but I've been walking around in my flip flops, my slippers, my shorts, my sweaties. It's a sense of coming back into the world. I have a mixture of people literally gagging to get back to interacting, and a sense of being a part of something. And at the same time, there's almost like a trepidation around going back to what was a normal. And the trepidations are around time, timeliness, travel. And we're amazing as humans in what we can get used to. So this has been a long time. It's 18 months, people know how long it's been, but it only takes 21 days to form a habit. So people have got into a whole new set of habits, and a lot of it unconscious to ourselves. And now that we're being asked to do things differently again, it's like, ooh, right. I thought I'd been, unconsciously, I think I've been the same. And then I started to look and go, well, I have a different way of getting up, and I have a different way. I was with someone this morning who has lost 2.5 stone in the last year, and they lost 2.25 of those stone in the last 6 months since they've gone back to the office. One of those stone, now there's a lot of measures in that. One of those stone was a direct COVID stone. So 2 years ago they would have been 1.5 stone heavier. During COVID, they went to 2.5 stone heavier. And the whole point was that because I went back to my office, I was in a different routine, a routine of exercise that I couldn't seem to get into from home. And when I was at home, this client told me this morning, at home, I'd say to myself, I'm going to wake early and I'm going to start something, and invariably I'd turn it over. Whereas when I had to go to the office, it's a different thing. I had to get up to go. So it prompted me into a whole different mode of action. And the other thing they were saying was then, and I'm away from the mid-morning, mid-afternoon munchies. And that's everything from cookies to crackers to chocolate to extra cups of with sugar in. Back in the office, there was less people there because most people are out. There's less distraction of teas, coffees, a full larder, a full fridge. So I'm back to eating square meals a day. I have a breakfast, I have a very moderate lunch because I bring it with me, and because again during COVID there wasn't many places to go to for lunch, so it was pre-packed, and then I have my dinner. So what it said to me and what it just exemplified was the challenge we have of getting into routine and being in routine, and how we've been conditioned for years traveling to and from work to have routine. And this is what I hear all of the time. So for lots of people, the routine might have worked out well being at home. As someone said to me again only this week, what part of me didn't get. This was yesterday morning. I was actually for a walk with a client, and he was saying that he just couldn't wait to get back to the office, and they'd been organising and galvanising the staff to get back to the office. And he said that a huge part of it for him was it takes him 40 minutes to get to the office and 40 minutes to get back from the office, 40 minutes to get there and probably an hour to get home. And he said that was my gearing up time and my decompressing time. And he said that time has expanded into work time and straight from work to family. So I leave my home office and I'm at the dinner table, I'm at the homework table, I'm right in with the kids. And he said, it's a first world challenge, but I'm right at the end of my tether from not having the breaks. And that's so the re-emerging is going to be a mixture of people realizing that some of the mundane task and routine of getting to and from can actually be really valuable time if used properly. So the time I'm in a car, or I'm on a tube, or I'm on a subway, or I'm in a train, if I use that time correctly and listen to a podcast and listen to a book, listen to my favorite music, that I can actually gear myself up and I can wind myself out.
Yeah, I'm hearing you talk about people who are saying, look, I can't wait to get back. And what are you seeing or hearing from people who are saying, I can't do this again, or the thought of this is making me break out in hives?
Yeah, and what I'm hearing on that level is the blended offer has to be in play. So I can't do this 5 days a week. I have no intention of doing this. So it's not even a can't, it's a won't. I have no intention of doing it. So a lot of the people I work with are the owner director types who are saying we're experiencing that we have to be flexible, we have to be different. The world has changed, and much as it may annoy us that we can't just say to people turn up and let's all get together and work, the world has changed irrevocably, and that's a big challenge. So I would think nearly all of my clients are talking about before year end having tested coming back to their offices by way of anything from 30 to 50% of people coming back to the office, and coming back generally for anything from between 2 to 3 days a week, but not being rigid on that. But the aim is that by the new year it will definitely be blended, but teams will have worked out what 2 days they're spending at home, or what 2 days they're spending in the office. And as an owner said to me yesterday, and they're not going to be Mondays and Fridays. Like, this isn't going to be a ghost town on a Monday and a Friday. We're not turning this into a 4-day week, even though it's 2 days working from home, where effectively it's not. So it's going to be, teams configuring how we can do this in a blended way, in a way that the business works. So I think nearly everyone that I've experienced from a client point of view knows that it can't just be full on all back. So for those breaking out in hives, don't fret, is what I would say. It's going to be a blend.
Yeah, and for people who are having to, lead out that process, what are you advising them to do?
Be flexible and be open. Because again, as a leader said to me on Monday, nobody on the planet has done this before. So everybody is in discovery. So there's nowhere to go to say, what did you do when you encountered this the last time? Or how did you manage this? Like, this event has been, in world impact, as another guy said to me, this has been bigger than Jesus. And that wasn't to be religious or to be blasphemous. It was to say that at one time it has affected everybody at the same time. So this hasn't been a growing thing. It hasn't been a creeping on thing. This has been once in a lifetime, at the same time, everyone's stopping. So what I'm experiencing from those having to lead it is we're looking and taking stock of what's happening around us, where most people have listened to government advice, whichever jurisdiction that's in, and said, well, that's where we take our lead from, and then we're looking for best practice around that, recognizing that no one has done this before. So best practice is, how are those who used to be flexible in terms of people in and out of their office, how are they operating anyway, or what did they do in the past that we can learn from now to make it work? So a very simple thing that one of my clients came up with was, she said, if we went on current guidelines, it's 2 meter distancing, and that would mean that if I have 300 people on the floor of my business, I can have about 45 of them back maximum. She said, that's just not worth doing. If it's 1 meter, we can nearly treble that. But she said, whichever way it's going to be, a very simple thing we'll be instituting is wristbands. I said, we have 3 color wristbands for people coming back to the office. Green for those who are willing to high five, give a kiss in the cheek, a hug, sit next to someone and integrate. Yellow for those who are a bit more cautious, very conscious of their distancing and abiding by the absolute guidelines. And red, it says, do not touch. And there are no questions then as to, are you vaccinated, jabbed, what's your opinion on any of that? This is how you play it. So we'll abide by the rules, and we'll then have a very simple traffic light system that's visible to everybody by what they wear, to say to what extent they're abiding by the rule. I thought that was fantastic. Really simple.
Yeah, really great suggestion for just getting over that particular hump, and something that leaders in other organizations could absolutely be adopting. Forgetting about leaders, because we're all people at the end of the day, but you've already mentioned don't be worrying for people who are thinking about, I'm not going back to 5 days a week, but just more generally for people, this idea of re-emerging, what are you advising the people you're coaching to be thinking about or doing, or to be, how are you advising them to approach this or phase it?
Oh, gosh, it's so simple on so many levels, and what I'm noticing is that it's the simplicity keeps tripping us up, and the lack of keeping the simplicity in our lives. So what I mean by that are being conscious of what it is feeds your soul on a daily basis. So as I said, like the traveling to and from work was something that someone hadn't realized was part of my decompressing and my getting ready to. So for right now, as you re-emerge, what are you doing to your life? So I was talking to someone today, and she said, yesterday I was a bit overwhelmed, and what I've realized is I was attempting to do personal stuff in the middle of my day, and I was organizing personal stuff. So I'm living in my apartment in the middle of London, and I'm trying to organize a carpet cleaner to come in and do stuff. And I'm doing that in a 2 minutes between a Zoom call. And I'm left on hold, or I was coming back and I'm freaking out trying to get back onto my Zoom call or be on my Zoom call and do it. I said, like, it was just simple stuff yesterday of putting order on how I go about things. I said, like, so as a result of conversation we had, it was like kind of, so this is what I did, and I got rid of lots of stuff. And now I've lists of stuff that was impacting on me that I do from 5 o'clock onwards. I have put order on when I do my exercise, and it's first thing in the morning, because I was trying to fit my exercise in maybe in the evening as well, but actually first thing in the morning is when I do it. So the re-emerging was like, find a routine and create the routine that actually suits me and make that happen. I'm working that to a way that says, and what I'm finding as well, for me personally, because I've come back to my office in the last kind of 4 months, and come back 2 offices, and I've been pleasantly surprised and somewhat blown away by the difference that simple variety in your day makes. So I was working from home for the last couple of days, and the difference from working from home when you're not stuck at home is phenomenal. The difference from working from home when you know that you're working away 2 days later is phenomenal in your head. So I'm saying this to anyone who hasn't yet experienced it. In terms of the re-emerging, there is a phenomenally positive impact to the variety that it creates for our brains as well. And just having to think differently in terms of like, oh, tomorrow I'm getting up to get my train, so it's different. But 2 days later, I'm going to get to work from home again. So actually not having to get up for the train after 2 days is a pleasant surprise again. So whereas what I heard a lot of people say was like the Groundhog Day of not having to get my train every day was driving me insane. But now that I'm faced with having to get a train again, it's kind of unedging me, and I'm slightly unhinged again. But I also know that when I didn't have it in my life, there was a weirdness to it.
I know, whenever you've coached me or been advising me on things, one of the themes, and I know this is common to a lot of your work, but is non-attachment. Don't get overly wrapped around the axle of the outcome. Trying to stay as non-attached as you possibly can is probably a good way to try and approach this, or would that be your take?
Absolutely. And again, stuff that we talk about all the time is like being conscious of your story and becoming conscious of how you carry your story. So like, what's your story around travel? What's your story around being back at work? What's your story around any of it? So we'll hear, I'll hear this every day where people say things and they don't realize it's their story, but it's actually how they're bringing themselves. So I don't like doing this. Why is that? Well, I've told myself a story that when this happens to me, I don't like, or whatever the extrapolation of that is. So being conscious of how you're bringing yourself to this, being conscious of the anxiety you might be causing yourself by looking into the future and projecting the worst of it to happen, how it has been, how it will. So in terms of re-emerging, setting your intention for how you want things to be, how you want your life to be now that you're re-emerging from this, and being conscious of what was it like for you before the pandemic. So being conscious of, like, I didn't have a lot of time, or I was being stressed, or I didn't have time for it. Now how do I want it to be? So it's a phenomenal, it's just a crazy opportunity for all of us in life to reassess and make the best of any situation for ourselves by way of creating how we want to come about it. So most people are going to be in a position where they can pick the type of days that they go to the office. Most people are like, so, and I'm taking this as office-bound people, but lots of people are going to get an opportunity to see and have already seen that they don't need to be there all the time, or that they can do their business in a different way. But I also know that, lots of people I know from the outset of this have said, like, everybody thinks you can get away with not doing what we used to do. But the reason we used to do an awful lot of what we did was because it suits us as humans, as in the connecting, the being together, being in the same space, having someone to bounce off of, grabbing the energy. So I know loads of people who've started new jobs in the last 12 months, and they've never met any, they were lucky enough to meet someone physically who was handling an interview on behalf of the business, but they haven't met their line manager, they haven't met their peers, they've met them on Zooms, but they haven't physically met. I know people who've been brought into senior positions who are in the middle of merging and acquiring businesses, and they've never physically met the people they're doing this on behalf of. And then I've met people, and I know of plenty of people who've gone and taken internships and gone from interns to being fully employed, or have changed employment, and they've never met anyone. They've never sat in an office. And I know from talking to lots of these people re-emerging, when they've got into offices, so again, speak to clients in London where they've, and I'm thinking of young people who were never in the office, and they were slightly anxious about going into the office. Not because they were afraid of COVID, they were slightly anxious about how they perform and who'd be around, and then they've got in there, and it's like, oh my God, the office, not alone is the office amazing, it's like, oh, the connection is phenomenal, and it's like, it's amazing to meet people, and people who've been very nice on Zoom are even nicer in the flesh, and questions I couldn't ask on Zoom because I had a sense of who they were from Zoom, I was able to ask 10 times easier in an office environment. So I've loved it, and it's kind of like, and I get to work from my apartment as well. How cool is that? Like,
so is your advice for anyone, whether you're, champing at the bit to get back or nervous, is, well, what I'm hearing from you is, first of all, look at the story that you're carrying about this whole period that we're in right now. Is that the first place to start for people?
Absolutely. And is this happening to you, or is it happening for you? So how are you bringing yourself to this? So this could be happening to you, and oh my God, I'm having to go back to work, and I'm having to look at what I'm wearing, and maybe I'm not fitting into what I'm wearing as easy as I did, or I have to get back into traffic, I have to get back on tubes, I have to, whatever. Or it's happening for me. Oh my God, the world is opening up again, and I'm getting variety back in my life, and I'm going to now get to experience true variety.
Yeah, that's a great place to stop, Ian. Thanks a million for that. That was great.
Absolute pleasure, David. Great to talk.